G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dyl, and we are the Fantasy Bros. Very excited to have partnered with GameDay Squad once again this NRL season to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Team list Tuesday has dropped. We've got plenty of points to discuss and plenty to atone for from last week. Dyl, welcome, mate. Yes, before we get to those positional previews, we will need to go around the grounds. Let's rip the Band-Aid off nice and quickly. How are your round 4 results?
Do we have to? Do we need to bother about this? Obviously, if you tuned in last week, you saw some pretty good results from both of us. And I think I said to you on Monday after the round had finished that it was probably my worst round in GameDay Squad Rugby League since the inception of GameDay Squad. I just, everything that could go wrong went wrong for me. I did something similar to you. I thought I had Tom Jenkins in one of my teams, but I checked again after the game and it was Brian To'o. Obviously, I just skimmed over it, saw the Panthers, and so that was really annoying. But look, 29th and under 24s, and that was all thank you to Fini Fuiaki, who just continues his absolute dominance there for the Dolphins. Another 79 GDS points from him on the weekend just gone. And I think he's going to be someone that we're going to talk a lot about in this round and also moving forward throughout the season because he is looking super dominant for the Dolphins, as are a number of Dolphins players. And we're going to touch on quite a few tonight. But, mate, look, 29th in the under 24s for me. Did you fare any better across any of your competitions?
Only marginally, just the 23rd in Challenger. Very tough week. 30s in all other comps, bar the classic competition, which look, pains us both to say. Let's get into it. Alex Twile there is on screen. He was he was outstanding for a couple of my teams. Gee, I wish I played him in a few more, but 77 points there. That beautiful offload and flick to create a line break was beautiful to see. And just like Fine Fuiaki, I think Alex Twile will be a pretty popular play this round. No, everyone, what you see on screen is not an April Fool's joke, although we'd love to say it was. But Dyl, Classic Cup, you won the inaugural competition last season, both eliminated in round 2. What happened?
Mate, just Easy Beats was not that easy to beat, unfortunately. I think it ended up being about 130 points that the coach got up by. And just some silly decisions from us. We both talked about Adam Dewey and the hammy that was going to end his season, and then Fainu on the bench there as well, and all of a sudden he comes out and have a massive game against the Warriors, who we sort of thought the Warriors would have a big game against the Tigers and maybe even get one over them again, but it wasn't to be. And I think that was a big reason for why we potentially got beaten, was because we left Adam Dewey out of both of our sides in that Classic Cup. So yeah, unfortunate, but look, it's great to see some new faces, some new names up on the leaderboards as well. So it's great to see. I mentioned to you throughout the weekend that it was a coach by the name of Pikachu was up on the leaderboards across a number of competitions, and we hadn't seen that before. So it's great to see them up there as well. But similar to you, mate, I think this is the first time we've ever had both of us with head and hands on screen. So we're just kicking goals across all aspects of GameDay Squad today and making some history. Let's move on before we have to cry again about that.
Well, like we said last week, the beauty of the GameDay Squad platform is that clear team button, and you can start fresh. And that's exactly what you and I will be doing this round. And if anything, it maybe just a bit off our back in terms of, well, we don't have to worry too much about progressing through that Classic Cup, that we don't have to worry about that extra competition now. Maybe we can focus our energy back into our main teams, and other people can sweat through the Classic Cup head-to-head matchups. We've got Sif Kanga in the chat as always. Howdy. Let's get rowdy. How did you go in the cup, Sif Kanga? Are you still alive? Anyone else, let us know. Say good day. Tell us how you went, if you're still alive in the cup or not, and if you got past Dyl or myself. Look, it's definitely not too late to sign up and get involved in GameDay Squad. Like I said, that clear team button means that we can create a brand new team each and every week. You can sign up now and still win your share in $5,000 worth of cash, plus a plethora of pack prizes each and every week. Simply head over to the GameDay Squad website or download the app. And when you're signing up, use the promo code FBRL26 and you'll get a bonus 3 times 9 player common packs. Heap of cards there. to get your teams rolling. You'll also get a whole bunch of bronze cards, and you can fill out 2 or 3 teams easy after a few of those packs that you open. So plenty of fun to get involved, particularly if you're struggling in the other formats of rugby league fantasy. Why not get involved in GameDay Squad and test your ability against Dyl, me, and your other friends and family.
Yeah, and as you said, that's the beauty of the GameDay Squad platform, is you can clear that team. And not only do we have some competitions in terms of the full round, we've got the starter, we've got classic, contender, challenger, and champion, and different rarities and different salaries involved. But we've also got those special competitions, the Stats Lab Primetime, Thursday and Friday night games, massive competition there. You can win $1,000 before your weekend even begins. We've also got the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, which is a great way to get around and potentially win $5,000 at the end of the season. Then we also have that under 24s comp, as I said, which it brings in a whole lot of new players that potentially we wouldn't be playing in that full round format. So it's great that we can pick and choose some new players and look at some up and coming talents. And as I said, Fini Fuaki is just one of those. Hamish Stewart, another one that's had some massive games over the last few weeks. So we'll keep an eye on a number of those as well. So there's, as you said, it's not too late to get involved. Plenty of opportunity to win some packs, prizes, and have some fun, whether it's on stream with us, whether it's opening your own packs and pulling your favorite cards out of those packs and being able to use them to win some cash as well. As a lot of us in the chat do. Matty P is here. Unlucky guys. Yeah, I managed to stay alive for another week. That is great to hear, Matty P. It's awesome to see that you're still running. Remember as well, I put over on the Discord, if you are part of the GameDay Squad Discord, Stu and I are running a bit of a competition tonight. The winner of the competition will get a Jack Williams diamond. So plenty to play for today. Look, to get involved, all you need to do is name a player that we haven't thought about this season. This season so far. That player must have played in the NRL between the 2000s and now. And we'll pick someone at random using the wheel that we haven't thought about in a while, and that is 1 pick per coach. So get your picks in as well live on stream, and we'll get that Jack Williams diamond to a lucky winner tonight. Don't forget as well, as we're working through each position, let us know if you've got any questions about who to start, who to sit, maybe a couple left field pods as well. We'll try and get to all of those questions throughout the night. Alrighty, Stu, do you want to kick us off, get into those hookers?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, on screen, we've got, just a reminder, we go through a couple of points of difference, the 3 players that we are strongly considering across each of those positional groups, and the 2 players that we might want to fade. We won't necessarily touch on all of those players on screen. If you are interested to know why we're fading some of those players or why we see them as a point of difference and we don't touch on them during the episode, let us know in the comments section. Otherwise, let us know on YouTube in the comments as well once this has gone live, or jump over to the GameDay Squad Discord server as well and hit us up there. We're more than happy to talk GameDay Squad at Fantasy Rugby League 24 hours long. Dyl, it's been about a battle of 3 for a couple of seasons now in Harry Grant, Blake Brayley, and Damien Cook. There's no surprise that they're our 3 strongly considers, but it was probably looking toward Harry Grant, Blake Brayley with the return of Jacob Little, but we saw Damien Cook go back to 70 minutes and share the field with Jacob Little. Where are you leaning this week for your hooker?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy one this week. It's Blake Brayley, I think, is going to be at the top of the list for a lot of coaches. There's still some question marks over Damien Cook, although he did share the field with Jacob Little, which kind of makes it really interesting. If we can see Damien Cook getting 70 minutes on the park, there's every chance that he's going to score 1 point per minute. And we're going to see something like a 65, 70 GDS points. Obviously, he did come off that 63, but that was with a try to his name as well. That it's just, for me, it's just so difficult to pick Cook with Little on the bench. We saw it so many times last season where we thought, this is going to be the time that Cookie plays 80. He's going to start at hooker and he's going to drop back to that lock position and tackle his heart out, and ended up not quite happening. So I'm just a little bit concerned with that. It's still a decent play, but just a little bit concerned. So I think it's just easy just to go with the Blake Brayley option, knowing that he's probably one of the only players that will get that full 80 minutes and have a decent matchup. The tough matchup is obviously the Harry Grant matchup. And you'll hear throughout pretty much the whole show that we're going to fade pretty much all Melbourne Storm players against the Panthers. And I think we'll just continue to fade everyone against Panthers players each and every round until we see something different. Is that sort of where you're leaning as well, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. We're only 4 rounds through. Yep, Blake Brayley is the only number 9 to see 80 minutes in every single start. Obviously, there are a few others in the 70s. Even Harry Grant's just the 75 minutes. So I think for that reason alone, Harry Grant's got the tough matchup. But Blake Brayley, pretty simple start for me. We know that he's going to get through plenty of base, and any attacking upside is definitely going to be nice as well. Harry Grant probably won't be kicking goals, depending on how many tries Melbourne do score against Penrith anyway. Obviously, Parramatta unlocked the code of how to score points against Penrith last week with 20. They were averaging just 3.3 NRL points before that round. So, Blake Brayley, pretty easy for me. If you want to get a little bit funky, the next highest averaging minutes hooker is Phoenix Crossland, who somehow managed to make himself look even more handsome on the weekend after that horrific knock to the nose. He's averaging 44.5 GDS points. Harrison Graham's been really good for them coming off the bench, and that's meant that Phoenix Crossland has moved into the middle a little bit more. So if you can see him getting a bit more time through the middle, that means maybe more tackles, more runs. He could be in consideration, but definitely not for me when we've got those 3 strongly considered players. But maybe decent shout in the Sunday showdown, even as a little bit of a pod, could be Phoenix Crossland, just because we know he's going to be on the field for plenty of time. Do you want to touch on a quick fade?
Yeah, just quickly before we do, I think Phoenix Crossland, I think we've almost spoken about him each and every round on the show, considering that he was someone that we were saying that we weren't going to touch at all preseason. And I think we made a joke about him being an international superstar. So it's great to see that he is actually stepping up and playing some really good footy, albeit getting absolutely hammered between 2 players as well. I think for me, it's pretty simple. Lussig's going to be a fade. Mitch Kenny is not there. And really, Mitch Kenny would be a fade anyway. Even though he often plays 80 minutes, he doesn't really get through a whole lot of output at all. His base is very low. So I don't think Freddie Lussick is going to make much difference there as well. And Storm are really good at holding off hookers in terms of conceding points. They're just allowing 24. So I think it's a pretty easy one. Don't be tempted by that potential switch up with Mitch Kenny not there. Also, as we've got there with Smith as well. I was pretty keen to see whether Brandon Smith might get named. I know he's very close to returning because they've got a really good matchup this week as well against the Doggies, but it doesn't look like he's going to get a start yet. But I just keep an eye on Brandon Smith as someone potentially over the next few weeks that might sneak his way into the hooker position.
Yeah, particularly as a point of difference. Perhaps we've got Sif Kanga loving his Blake Brayley shout. So we're 1 from 1. Sif, I love it. Dyl, let's move into the middle forward position. And we've got a couple of new faces on the screen and a couple of former faces aren't there. We got one guy back that we didn't get to play last weekend. I think, if anything, the middle forward position has opened up a little bit and got far more flexibility in terms of the players we want to get to. And it's not as simple as last year where you maybe just locked in 3 guys because they were head and shoulders above the rest. What are you looking at for your 3 middle forwards this week?
Yeah, it's interesting. Last week we talked about Yo and even Isaiah Papali'i being potential point of difference, and they both had a pretty good game. But Yo, again, just got limited minutes. What was that, 45 or 50 minutes on the field, and that was without Jack Cogger in the side there. Jack Cogger's returned to the bench. So for me, Yo, at the moment, based on his minutes, based on his output, if he didn't score that try, it could have been pretty horrible viewing. But I think for that reason, I'm not going anywhere near Isaiah Yo at the moment, which is crazy to think that we've relied on him so heavily over the last probably 3 or 4 seasons of GDS, and this season we're not really going near him. And for that reason, I think it's really clear that those 3 strongly considered are going to be the key men. As you said, Payne Haas back, so it's going to shore up that middle forward stock for GDS. Jackson Ford's going to get another run in my side, with Barnett now being out for up to 4 weeks with, I think, was a broken thumb. We didn't really get any news about it. He just posted on, I think it was Instagram, with his arm in a sling and the cast on his hand there. So I think, Jackson Ford stocks are going to continue to rise. And I think we talked about it last week. If anyone's going to lose minutes with Barnett being there, it's probably going to be the other middles around him, because it looks like really what they want to do there at the Warriors is give Jackson Ford as much time on the field as possible. And I know that he came out himself and said that that's what the coaching staff are trying to do, trying to build up his fitness so that he can almost play 80 each and every week through the middle. So that's really great news for anyone that is keen on Jackson Ford, and he continues to pump out some good numbers. The difficult one, I think, is probably Terrell May is do you play him or do you not? At the moment, I'm purely playing him based on what we saw from him last season with his 2025 output. We haven't quite seen it there at his best, but look, his base output is 45 GDS points at the moment. And he is averaging over 3 tackle breaks per game. That's enough for me at the moment to go, yeah, I'm still going to give him another week. But he's someone that potentially over the next few weeks, if he doesn't step up back into that sort of 60-ish realm that we expect from him, that 65, even like Payne Haas, I think it might be someone that we look elsewhere with the likes of Udir Kamanu playing some really good footy, having a whole lot of tackle breaks. Obviously, he didn't have as many last week. And then even one of our points of difference having a big game last week as well. So, yeah, for me, it's still those 3, but there is some question marks elsewhere. And the other player that I do like just quickly is Cam Murray coming back off the bye. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be keen to go through the first 4 rounds of the competitions. The Bulldogs are actually the easiest matchup for middle forwards, allowing 46 GDS points on average. So I'm pretty keen to probably get him on the side. Murray's averaging 67 minutes on the park so far with an output of about 52 GDS points. So I think he can step that up to something more than like what we've seen in the past from Murray's, more around that 57 sort of GDS points, which I quite like as a potential consistent play. So I've got that point of difference there, but the 3 on screen as Stroll and Consider is where I'm focusing.
Yeah, I like the Cam Murray shout for sure, and certainly in a Stats Lab primetime competition, he could be a big play in that regard, mate. If you had said at the start of the season that there'll be a middle forward from the Tigers averaging above 60, you'd probably, bet everything you owned on it being Terrell May, but it's not, is it? Alex Twal is averaging 6 more points than his teammate in Terrell May. Twal is averaging 61 at the moment, 61.87. He's the second highest averaging middle forward behind Payne Haas, and Terrell May is down there at 55.4. Is there a world where we still play a Tigers middle forward, but it's not Terrell May?
Yeah, look, definitely. I've got him in one of my teams at the moment instead of May. So I have, in terms of the full round slate, I do have him in my pod team, the challenger side. So it's ridiculous. I think in the past, you and I have spoken about Alex Twal and his ability and what he potentially could produce, but he hasn't quite got there for us in the past. And it's crazy to see that he has just got the output that he's going at. And as a result, the Tigers are playing really well off the back of that. And maybe that's the reason why we're seeing May not scoring as many points, because he's just not needed as much through the middle because Alex Twal's doing a lot of the work. So, yeah, definitely a play. I'm not quite at the point where I'm keen to play both Tigers middle forwards yet, but I don't think I'm too far away potentially as well if we see a big game from May this weekend.
Yeah, geez, you could be rolling out a couple of middle forwards there on the Monday game and surge your way up that leaderboard thanks to Terrell May and Alex Twal there on Easter Monday. That'd be pretty good. Some people might be sitting there scratching their heads going, why have you boys got Stefano Utoikamanu there on the fade list? He's averaging 55.8. He's the 4th highest averaging middle forward. We saw him get a little bit of a knock last week. He didn't seem too bad. He was down on minutes by about 5 to 7. But it's just the matchup again, isn't it? The theme of tonight's show is really that Melbourne Storm versus Penrith Panthers matchup. And it's really difficult to break tackles against Penrith. And I don't think Stefano broke one tackle on the weekend against the Cowboys. And that saw his score suffer a little bit. So, yeah, we're expecting a little bit of a regression there from Stefano. It doesn't mean he's not a play any more matches this season. In fact, he's a really good play. And particularly if he has a down game again this week, you and I will probably be straight back to him next weekend, depending on the matchup, definitely, which will probably be a little bit tastier than the Penrith Panthers. So, yeah, look, it's not always just the player and the average. We definitely want to take in consideration the matchup that they have there as well. And someone like Jacob Saifidi is of a little bit of interest as well, particularly for your Sunday showdown. If you don't own a Jacob Saifidi card, you probably need to look to get yourself one for Sunday. We got a couple of comments coming through in the chat section. Coach Stephen, g'day, mate. Thanks for joining us once again. Stephen says, thanks for the advice. My pleasure. We've got a mention of David Siege. Gee, that's a blast from the past, isn't it? That is definitely a ripper name in contention. If you missed it before, Dill's running a little bit of a competition. We play this in the group chat and at work every now and then. We just randomly drop an old school NRL player's name that no one in the group has thought of in the last few years, and you get a bit of a pat on the back and a well done if no one else has thought of that player. So we thought that we'd bring that to the stream, add a little bit of fun there. Dill's throwing up a diamond Jack Williams card. Anyone that names one that we haven't thought of in, let's say this year, I guess, the first 3 months through this year, if we haven't thought of that player, it's obviously an honesty policy. We won't lie to you. But that example there from Coach Stephen puts him straight into the draw to win that Jackie Williams. Get your comments in if you want to get involved. Sif Kanga is staying with the Haas May Yo combination. He might still be living in 2025, but he's hoping that Yo is going to get a nice big match here against the Storm, that he might have seen a few less minutes last week in preparation for this week. And Daniel is asking about Joash Papali'i, and we might have to get to Joash a little bit later on. Dill, let's keep moving. Let's get into the edge forwards. And we had a couple of big issues with some edge forwards last week, particularly one named Jacob Preston. We're expecting big things from him. 23 points was certainly nothing to write home about. And I think the GDS community is very narrow-sided and they're quick to get off him. Want to let us know what his percentage is looking like and whether or not you're going to get to Preston this week?
Yeah, well, look, in my notes, I put, am I panic fading Jacob Preston? And at this stage, I think I might be. I had a look yesterday and his percentage ownership was 43% across all competitions at the moment. So I'm going to check it now on the statslab.app website to have a look and see where that's at, because I think if it drops below 40, I might be tempted to roll them out and use that as a potential pod. But at this stage, I'm just a bit nervous. The way the Bulldogs are playing, they're not looking great. They tried to switch it up with Critter and Birdo last week. They've switched that back. I'm just not sure. The Rabbits are not too bad, allowing an average of 49 GDS points to right side edges, but they're also allowing 53 to the left side. So maybe Kikau's actually a sneaky little upside play as well on top of that. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure yet where I want to go with Jacob Preston, knowing that there's a couple of really good options in that man that we talked about at the top of the show, in Fini Fiuaki. Do you want to talk us through why he's probably going to be one of your number one played edge forwards this week?
Well, look, can his insane run of GDS scores continue? I honestly don't see why not. So with that in mind, he's going to be a feature in a number of my lineups this weekend. It's not like he's done it once or twice. He's done it 4 games on the trot, averaging 63.8 GDS points. He's got the 6th highest average, not just in the edge forward position, but the 6th highest average of the entire game, in the entire competition. He's got fantasy scores of 54, 64, 58, and 79, and he's proven that he doesn't need tries to be so relevant. That 79 on the weekend came without a try, 36 tackles, 222 run meters, 7 tackle breaks and an offload. But when you watch him play, he looks like he's getting through that line almost every single time he touches the footy. And if he's not breaking the line or breaking a tackle, he's at least getting a really quick play of the ball, and the Dolphins are getting a roll on from that. So they're going to keep using him there on that right-hand side. And look, Manly have been pretty lackluster in defence across the park. And, Fine Fiuaki up against Lukey Brooks, I don't think the matchups come much better than that. So sign me up. He'll be in as many teams as I can possibly fit him into. Yeah.
And the Seagulls are giving up 55 GDS points to that right side. So 47 to the left as well. So, as you say, Fini Fiuaki, a really popular pick in the full slate, but also in that primetime comp, as well as the under 24 comp.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to get a few of his cards there, but maybe even his edge forward partner in Lemuelu might even get a shout in that Stats Lab primetime. He might be rolling out 2 Finn's edge forwards in that spot there, because they're both playing some really good footy at the moment. Look, there's a player there on screen that, for me, it's not a point of difference. I think he's going to be one of my strongly considered, and that's David Fifita. I think he comes straight into my side with that week off. Look, the Bunnies have got a really good matchup against the Dogs, and I guess the Dogs pretty much were sent back to the kennel with their tail between the legs last week after the unlikely Knights just put them to the sword, and they had an unreal game against them, and the Dogs just didn't look like they had anything left in the tank. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from that and what it looks like. But the Dogs on average are giving up an average 55 GDS points to that left edge side as well this season. And based on that last week performance from Lucas, I mean, Lucas went to the bin 10 minutes there, and he still scored a try, I think, as well, and ended up on a pretty decent score of 60 GDS points, I think it was.
Yeah,
David Fafita, if he can stay on the park and play 80 minutes and break a few tackles and potentially even cross the line, I think he could be up for a decent score of 80 plus. So I think for me, David Fafita is going to be one of my number one picked edge forwards there, along with Dylan Lucas. We don't need matchup data to say that Lucas is an unreal player, even though the Raiders, they don't have an easy matchup, but they're still allowing 42 GDS points to that left side. So I'm pretty keen to get both of those into the side. The question is, with Sif Kanga up on the screen there, KPP and Lucas into the edge forward. KPP, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Is he someone you're looking at going back to at all? I've had a look at him, and I'm not keen, but I'm not super keen yet. I probably want to see a little bit more from him. But is that someone that you're keen on playing potentially in a couple of competitions?
Yeah, definitely. It just looks weird having so many Tigers in a team that you think, what am I doing here? And you want to take one or two of them out. I think we're in a situation where there's so many good edge forwards, with KPP being one of them. Even, I think Jado's nailed it here with a bit of a pod in Tallis Duncan. Yes. There's no reason why someone like him, who can run an excellent line and get through plenty of tackles, can't get a massive score this weekend against the Doggies as well. But look, KPP definitely can go on a tackle breaking try scoring run. It's probably just the work rate that he doesn't quite get through. Scored 2 tries in his first fixture, and you would have thought, he's a massive 80-point score for an edge back rower playing 80 minutes, scoring 2 tries, but it was slightly underwhelming. So yeah, the upside is definitely going to be there for KPP, but probably not necessarily for me every single week, more so as a pod when the matchup is favourable. For me, I love the Fino Fuiaki. Dyl Lucas is a really nice play this week. David Fafita, you gave us plenty of reasons why he should be in consideration. For me, Heilum Luki is a massive pod for me this week, I think, with plenty of upside as well. He gets a Dragon side that concede the most points to edge forwards with 60. So, look, I think with the Cowboys doing really well in terms of getting a lot of momentum after that win against Melbourne last weekend, they're going to want to continue that. And Lukey's destructive on that right edge. Dearden knows when to use him. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him fall over the line for a simple line break try and a couple of tackle breaks. But he gets through plenty of base anyway. He doesn't need to score a try to get a massive score. You can probably bank in, about close to 50 without anything special. But I think the Dragons do offer a bit of upside there. Geez, I don't think we've had so many options in the middle and edge forward position for some time.
No, not at all. And just quickly, I've got one more pod, but before we do, a couple of comments here about players that we haven't thought of this year. Jamie Soward from Jado. Look, I think about Jamie Soward all the time. I'm sorry. I cannot help thinking about that bloke in his little helmet, doing his little pre-kick routine. I even saw I think there was a short the other day on TikTok of Jamie Soward going through that routine over and over again. So, sorry, Jado. Unfortunately, I have thought about Jamie Soward. The other one here from Daniel Hassett, going old school, in Anthony LaFranchi from the Titans. I can't recall thinking about Anthony. I know he has come up in the past for us because he, at one time, was a pretty dominant fantasy player, and we often had him in our side, but I don't think I've thought about him this year. So Daniel Hassett, I think. Stu, unless you've thought about him?
Oh, look, I have. And he was actually brought up on a podcast that I listened to just 2 weeks ago. The boys were going through basically doing almost what we are doing, but for AFL, which is their favorite sport. And that got me thinking, I think I was going for a run, actually, listening to the podcast, and that got me going through the old school super coach and fantasy guns of the past: Corey Parker, Sean Fensom, Ash Harrison, and Anthony LaFranchi, just to name a few. So, look, we're not just giving out entries into the wheel. It is a diamond Jackie Williams. Anthony LaFranchi would have got Dyl over the line, but unfortunately, Stu, going for his run a couple of weeks ago, was daydreaming about Anthony LaFranchi and how good he was with his base stats.
I love that little flex of you going for a run. All right, Jado's agreed with me, though, in that he's also thinking about Jamie Soward all the time. So good. At least I'm not the only one. I even had it. I'm not going to say it on stream, but I used to have a little song for him when I was watching him kick. But we'll, if you see me out at the footy, maybe Magic Round, and you see the Fantasy Bros out and about, maybe down at Caxton Street, and you can hit me up for that song. I'm sure I'll perform it plenty of times at Caxton Street. Alrighty, look, I did tease it. I've got one massive pod, and look, when I give out some pods, sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't. So I want to make that very clear that this one is an absolute potential to not quite hit yet. But I think there's plenty of opportunity for him, and it's big Maxi Plath. He's only played by 1.8% of teams at the moment across all competitions, and he's into that dummy half role. He is available on the edge, which probably is the reason why he's so low owned. I think if he was available at the hooker for GameDay Squad, I think he might be more owned. But we do only get him at the edge forward. The Seagulls have been a pretty soft matchup, as we've already said, not necessarily for hookers. They've allowed 43 points to Tommy Starling in 65 minutes, which is probably the best score that any hooker has had so far against the Seagulls. But I think that the key for me is that Maxi Plath finished last week's game with 74 minutes, which was the most he'd played in the first 3 rounds that he's returned in. He made 44 tackles in that time. Unfortunately, he missed 7 tackles. That's 21 GDS points that he lost there. So just looking at that, if he had made those, that's a massive 60-point score just in base, just from tackles, nothing else. Look, and if you go back to 2025, he only missed 10 tackles across 8 games in 2025. So I think that 7 missed tackles there is a pretty big outlier. And I think we're going to see a much better tackle break to missed tackle ratio from him this week. And it's just a potential to maybe get him into 1 or 2 sides. I think he's going to come into my prime time, and he might even come into maybe that pod side as just a little bit of a potential to have a big game. So just keep an eye on him. That's my big pod watch, but obviously there's inherent risk with that if he does have those 7 missed tackles again, there's 21 points going begging.
And we'll have to see what impact Kurt Donahue has off the bench as well. Whether he spells Plath 1-for-1 or if Plath finds some time through the middle as well when Donahue comes on. Definitely something to look for. Dyl, a quick answer, yes or no. Waltzing Matt Hilda, I love it. I'm happy with that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, Walkie, you are straight into that draw, mate. That is
very good.
Unreal. That's a great one.
One of my favorites.
Well,
but definitely hasn't come up in conversation this year. Right, Dyl, let's move into the halves position. Who would have thought Nathan Cleary isn't the top averaging half after a month worth of footy, and there are 2 blokes averaging in the band of 10 points above him in the 80s. Jaden Campbell, Tanner Boyd, 82 and 80 respectively. Cleary's obviously in consideration. I feel like he is matchup proof that when Nathan Cleary's named on the team sheet, you'd have to strongly consider him, fading him, despite a tough matchup there by the looks of it against the Melbourne Storm. You have to be a pretty brave man to leave him out. So I presume you're going Nathan Cleary. I reckon the other 2 half spots are going to be very difficult this week. Where are you looking?
Yeah, look, I'm really disappointed that we had a conversation this afternoon about who we were going to put up as our strongly considered, and I lost out for Nico Hines finding his way onto the strongly considered, and instead you've put in Tanner Boyd from the Warriors, which, look, great option. There's some concerns around Tanner Boyd and what he's going to offer this week, but for me it's got to be Nico Hines is who I'm going to pair. I am going to go Jaden Campbell and Cleary, and then Nico Hines comes straight into my side as well, and it really just is based on what we saw Adam Dewey do last week. He obviously the week before he had a season-ending hammy injury. He was down, he was out, and all of a sudden he bounces back and he puts on a performance like that. The Warriors have given up an average of 58 in the last 3 weeks to right halves. So that's Stranger's 51 and then Dewey's 85 that we saw last week. So I think there's a lot of potential for Hines to have a massive game here against the Warriors. Warriors are traveling over to Shark Stadium there, and they're going to kick off the Sunday Showdown as well. So I think Hines is going to feature across pretty much most of the squads for the full round, as well as the Sunday Showdown for sure. I think he's going to be highly played there as well. So yeah, for me, it's just an easy play. We saw what Dewey did. He just tore that side of the field to shreds, and I think Hines is going to do something similar. Hines did have a down game against the Panthers. We rule that out. His average is even with that game as average of 66, we rule that out, and it's closer to that 80 where a lot of those other high performing halves are. So yeah, for me, it's a simple one. Jaden Campbell, potentially on paper, it could look like a tough matchup, but you're going to talk through why it's a really good option. The one for me that I'm actually going to fade is Tanner Boyd. And outside of Cleary's 95 GDS points against the Sharks have restricted every other right half to less than 45 GDS points. So I think that Tanner Boyd might have a really big down game this week, where that connection between Luke Metcalf returning from injury and Boyd, it's just not quite there yet. The Warriors are going to need that moving forward to really click. It's not there yet, and hopefully it will slowly get better. But I think that the travel, the poor performance last week, the loss of Mitch Barnett, there's a whole lot of compounding factors. Tuapiki at the back with Chance Nickel-Klokstad moving to the centres. I know we saw that last week. They're going to run with that again. Does that feed into maybe the fact that maybe Tanner Boyd doesn't have a big role now with Tuapiki more involved than CNK was? I don't know. But yeah, for me, I'm just purely based on that output from other players outside of Cleary's 95. I'm going to fade Boyd this week.
Yeah, fair enough. Not anything to do with Boyd necessarily. Probably just, like you said, the players around him. And Lukey Metcalf will want to build on last week's pretty poor showing, albeit first game back from a long, long time. Yep. Pretty scared about the start of Jaden Campbell. On paper, it doesn't look like a good play at all. But look, the Titans get Big Brother in the Brizzy Broncos this weekend, and there's no denying how good Jaden Campbell is at racking up fantasy points. He hasn't missed a beat since returning from that soft tissue injury. He followed up his 2 try efforts in his first game back with the tryless 78-point outing in the win over the Dragons. The Bronx are actually giving up the 4th most points to the halves position. So it's not as though the stats are entirely against him, despite the odds. If you're a betting person, it looks like the Titans stand absolutely no chance whatsoever. The Bronx are heavy favourites, but it doesn't mean Jaden Campbell can't rack up the fantasy points through his kicking meters, through his runs, through his tackle breaks. And the Titans always want to show up against Big Brother, the Brizzy Bronx. So they're not going to go down without a fight. And like we saw last weekend, if Jaden Campbell's not rolling his sleeves up and having a decent crack, the Titans aren't really much of a chance. So, yeah, if someone can knock out 78 points without a try, he's definitely got to be in consideration just about every single week. Someone averaging close to 60 that is not in consideration for me is on screen there, and Jerome Hughes. Again, we don't need to get into too much detail, but it's just the Panthers matchup. They allow just 24.5 GDS points to halves. Para finally were the first team to score, double digits against them in the weekend just gone. And that right half in Mitchy Moses kicked 2 conversions and still scored just 28 GDS points. So poor. Look, Melbourne Storm are going to be up for this match. Can they score more than 20 points? Yeah, absolutely. Will they? It's not a guarantee. No. So I just don't have much faith in there being a lot of attacking output in this to make a really nice return for Jerome Hughes, who is someone that does rely on his running game, getting through the line, creating something off the back of a line break or even stepping and scoring himself against some tired defenders. That sort of thing doesn't really happen against the Penrith Panthers. So despite the average, a pretty easy fade for me alongside your Tanner Boyd.
Yeah. And look, just on the pod watch, I know we've got a couple of pods there. Reynolds and Clifford, definitely some really good points of difference. Adam Reynolds, potentially, the concern that I have, the Titans are allowing 50 GDS points. That includes Hines 102, but then also Atkinson's 21. So there's a little bit concerning there. We've seen a really poor game from Reynolds at the start of the season as well. I think he ended up on 4 GDS points or something like that. So there's a concern there. There's a couple of other players that I'm really keen on, and it's your boys in the Raiders, both Raiders halves, in fact. Could be some decent pods against the Knights. The Knights have allowed an average of 58 to right halves and 56 to left halves so far this season. We've got notable scores from players like Dearden, Brooks, Boyd and Burton. So there's every opportunity that both Sanders and Strange could have a big game. And look, the Raiders need it, to be honest. They're near the bottom of the table. They're struggling a little bit, so they would need that big game from the Raiders. Either way, I think it's going to be an option for the under-24 competition for a couple of those blokes, and then also the Sunday Showdown as well. Fletcher Sharp on the other side of the ball could potentially be a pod play as well. The Raiders are allowing an average of 50 GDS points to left halves, and I know he's had a couple of down games, so he'd be keen to bounce back and have a big performance. But again, that probably more so for that under-24 and Sunday Showdown sort of look, but there's some potential options there if you do want to have the cojones and fade someone like Nathan Cleary.
Oh, geez. Let us know if you're going down that route. Yeah, I think this seems like feels like the most open round of the season so far, and it's probably because of that matchup there between the Storm and the Panthers. Let's run through some names quickly of some players that you and I haven't thought of in the past 3 months. Christian Inu and his goal kicking routine with that beautiful smile. Absolutely, that's a tick for me. Happy with that?
Sorry. No, I think of Christian Inu because my favourite rugby union player is Damien McKenzie, and he has the exact same routine in terms of that big smile across his face. So I often relate that back to Christian Inu. And the Waikato Chiefs are having a pretty decent dig on the Super Rugby side of things. So sorry, Daniel Hassett. That's a no from me, mate.
Barry Berrigan, sorry, is a no from me. Lukey Patton, yes or no?
I think Fantasy Stats had an earlier play, and I'm happy to put a line through it because I think he said Daniel Tupou, and I think I'm happy to put a line through that because we obviously see him week in, week out. I haven't thought of Luke Patton at all, so I'm happy to put him in. So Fantasy Stats, I'm keen to put you in. Well done, mate. That's a good one.
Yep. And just on the Barry Berrigan, he comes up in conversation a little bit when I talk about the Brizzy Bronx entering a team at the Whites Hill Touch Footy Comp, and the Berrigan brothers too busy arguing with each other and fighting with each other all match to actually play some decent touch footy. They got graded down to B grade, and Hook, their team, didn't want to turn up again and face the music. Always a great story of mine. Dyl, let's get into the centres position. Again, fairly open here. We've got Herbie Farnworth. That hasn't set the world alight necessarily in terms of separating himself from the rest of the pack. Jakey Avarillo is going alongside him, just about as good as Herbie is on the right-hand side there of the field for the Dolphins. So I think those two are definitely in consideration for a lot of coaches this round. Yeah. But Adam Dewey showed you and I what he can do with one hamstring. He got through 80 minutes and put on an absolute clinic last week. There is no way that you can fade him this week, is there?
No, not at all. And I think he's going to be highly played across all full slate competitions. And then obviously he comes straight into our side for the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, because that includes the Monday game for the Easter Monday. So do not forget that the Sunday Showdown does include Monday games. And look, a little teaser for anyone that is joining us live. There is going to be a bit of a short out tomorrow about, or maybe even later tonight if I can get it out in time, about Adam Dewey and his upside for the Sunday Showdown. So yeah, he's definitely one that I'm going to play. The coin flip, I guess, comes down to the second centre spot in maybe a Dolphins head-to-head. Do we play Herbie Farnworth, who's matchup proof, versus the Armadillo, who's absolutely on fire and it probably has a great matchup on paper, really. The Manly side, as we've talked about, they're in all sorts. You pick them to win the wooden spoon. I don't know if it's winning, but take home that wooden spoon at the end of the season. And they're sort of on track to do that. The Seagulls have allowed an average of 45 GDS points to right centres, which is the fourth easiest matchup of the round. Whereas on the other side of the field for Herbie Farnworth, they've only allowed 39 GDS points, which is the eighth best matchup. So it's pretty hard to ignore Avarillo. He's got a base and power average of 42.5 GDS points with that upside of tries. So it was 5 tries in 4 games. So I'd be happy to take that home any day of the week.
Just electric, isn't he? Just can get from 0 to 100% speed in a couple of steps. And if he gets a little bit of space, it's try time. So yeah, absolutely. Geez. Who would have thought that we'd be considering the Armadillo a start over Herbie Farnworth? Some people might even be wanting to get even cheekier and look at the other side of the football field in Tolu Kula, who, look, let's be honest, if Manly are any chance of winning a match this season and getting off the bottom of the table, it's probably going to be because of Tommy Turbo or that man Tolu Kula, who are both pretty good options this round. Obviously, Turbo a bit more playable at fullback, a little bit harder at centre there, picking Kula. But look, they're pretty big underdogs, but Kula's matchup on paper is still really nice. Manly are averaging, the Dolphins are giving up 53 points to that centre position. So it's the head-to-head battle of not just Herbie and Averillo on the same team, but Cooler and Averillo on the same side of the field up against one another as well. Gee, that would be probably the fastest head-to-head matchup on paper, wouldn't it? I'm sure whoever Dom Young, Dane Gagai, probably not that same sort of speed anymore. Jason Saab on the right-hand side of the field with Garrick might not have but I think Cooler and Averillo, that matchup will be pretty tasty. And just quickly, fading Crichton and Val Holmes, both goal-kicking centres, which we love. But just the matchup on papers don't look that good. For me, the Bunnies are showing that they're the fourth best team against opposition centres. So Crichton had a bit of a down game last week. The Doggies' attack are the worst in the competition at the moment. I want to see a bit more from them before I even look back at playing any dogs outside of maybe a Jacob Preston. And then Val, I know that you're a little bit bigger on Val than I am, but the Cowboys are still conceding the fewest points across both centre positions. I'm not sure. Don't have the numbers in front of me from the left to right, but that alone should be enough to look away from Val and play some of these other guys with better matches.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the disappointing thing as well, if you tuned in last week, Stewie talked about Critter being a potential big play, and I think he was even in our strongly considers, and he probably was. The problem was that he swapped positions, and it meant that the 2 tries that Critter would have scored went to somebody else completely. And so it would have been a really great play. But unfortunately, Birdo took those. I think it was 2 tries that he scored. And so, it's a bit of a shame. But this week, an easy fade. And I am not high on Val Holmes at all. Stop telling lies, Stu. I'm done with that bloke. Too many poor performances. I think he's about had it for GDS and for my fantasy side. So I think he's going to be a bit like Tino, in that we're going to have him on the fade list probably most weeks now, purely based on just the demerits they're too much for me. It's just compounding, and we just don't see enough from him to get a really good score. It's going to be crazy, a world where we play Farnworth and Averillo as our 2 centres over someone like Val Holmes, but I'm here for it for sure.
Well, we're probably playing Fine Filiaki. Averillo's a big question mark as a big maybe. And Jermaine Osako looks to be one of the better wing plays this week, given Tommy Jenkins and Sua Fa'alongo and their teams go head-to-head with one another. Obviously, we can play Fa'alongo as a winger. He'll be running out for the Storm with the number 1 on his back, but that's not a happy hunting ground for anyone in the competition so far. So there's even some hesitation about calling Sua a strongly consider. I guess it's just because he is wearing that number 1 on his back, and it does mean he gets the ability of playing fullback and getting some attacking points that way, and maybe getting some more run meters. But Jermaine Osako, probably our clear favourite winger for the week. Would that be right?
Yeah, definitely. Manly have given up a double to every right winger so far in every game that they've played this season. Wow. So put some money, if you're a betting person, put some money on Osako for a double. Look, they've also given up 13 tackle breaks in 3 games to that side of the field. Add to that, the Finns are averaging 4 tries per game, which is awesome, which we expected anyway. We know they're a really good attacking side. Their defence is where they really need to improve. But that's an extra 12 points for Osako just from that goal kicking. And we know that the try scoring ability that he has. So I think that's an easy one for me. Look, I'm going to say it now. You've said it before in the past, and it came to fruition. But I'm going to say it now that I apologise to anyone that does play Jenkins this week. I'm also playing Jenkins this week. So if he doesn't score a try and has a big game, I will take all the blame for that, because it's taken me until 10 tries to finally be converted into Milky Jenkins and be all around him. Look, I'm absolutely here for it, but I will apologise now. Obviously, the Storm, a pretty good matchup. They are allowing 38.8 to left wingers this season. That does include a 52 though to Sean Russell. So there's some potential there for Jenkins to continue to have that big game. The Storm have also allowed 3 tries down that left side in 4 matches. So I think even if Jenkins doesn't necessarily score, there's some base and power there with an average of 36 and some upside of attacking. The concern is obviously that 29 when he did score 2 tries. That just stares at me, and I'm just really concerned that we're going to get that again. But hopefully he's able to back that up with a couple of line breaks and offload and some try assists, as we've seen from him over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, for me, it's going to be that pairing of Osako and Jenkins. So anyone that is playing him, I'm sorry. I apologize if I've broken him.
If anyone is going to take that advice on board and not play him because they know that you're going to break him, tell us why Braden Burns is the next man up for you.
I really like he's going to be in my pod side for sure. I think he's been mentioned a few times across the first 4 rounds from us, and it's probably the first time that I'm actually seriously considering him. I know he's sort of been on the fringes a couple of times and he's shown some good performances. The Dragons are allowing an average of 43 GDS points to opposition right wingers, with only Famani the only player in 4 weeks to score less than 40 against them. And I think he ended up on about 18 or 19 points for the Titans. But look, Burns is coming off that massive game against the Storm, where probably, to be honest, he won them the game off the back of the things that he did. 200 running meters, 8 tackle breaks, 2 tries as well, finished on 81 GDS points. And the Cowboys came away with a massive victory, which was unreal to see. Look, I think he's a pod probably just due to the floor. He had that floor game against the Titans where he scored 24 GDS points. But he is averaging 6 tackle breaks per game, and he looks to have tidied up that missed tackles that did haunt him in round 1. I think he had 6 or 7 missed tackles in round 1, which obviously we never like. But I think if he can tidy that up and we can see a really good power game from him, he might cross the line. I don't think we necessarily need that try to bank in some really good points with that base and power. If we can see another game where he's 200 running meters and 6 or 8 tackle breaks, I'd be happy with that, as that winger position we know is super volatile.
Criminally underrated in the fantasy world, I think, Braden Burns. You need more love for Braden Burns. Righto, mate. Fullbacks. We had a couple of down matches from some fullbacks named D. Edwards and Jay Tedesco. Dylan Edwards has been super frustrating. I think you were talking about him today. You've probably played him twice for scores below 40 and missed out on his 2 scores above 70. Is there a world where you go back to Dylan Edwards? Obviously, on paper against the Melbourne Storm, looks pretty tough, but I believe the Storm are giving up plenty of points to fullbacks. I think 55-ish. Do you go back to Dylan Edwards this week?
Yeah, look, he definitely burnt me last week, not just for my team, but also in our BroDown ShowDown, which we're going to get to in a moment. A little bit of a spoiler there. I was fist pumping after Teddy had a really low score, who he picked at fullback, thought, I'm going to win this easy. And then Dylan Edwards throws up a bit of nothing. Yeah, look, I'm keen on Edwards, but I'm keen on a few others as well. I think Edwards is definitely going to be a player that's in my side, purely based on the fact that Melbourne are giving up a pretty hefty number to fullbacks with that 55-ish. There's obviously every opportunity that Edwards can have another down game, but we know that he has plenty of base points on his side. And a game that might be a little bit closer, it might not be as free-flowing. There might not be as many points on offer. He probably thrives in that a little bit more. Probably the downside of some big games where Cleary's in control of everything, maybe Edwards can take a back seat and when he's not necessarily needed, is where we see those poorer performances. So I think hopefully, fingers crossed, we get one of those 70+ scores that we've seen a couple of times in Dylan Edwards. But for me, it's the Turbo show this week. It's Turbo up against the Dolphins. They've been pretty vulnerable. If we take out Will Kennedy's 25 that he scored against the Manly side, the Finns against the Dolphins, the Finns are averaging and 60 GDS points to fullback. So I think Turbo there is going to have a massive performance. He's been on fire. As you said earlier, he's probably the shining light with Cooler for that Seagulls side. And I think that they'd be really off the deep end if they didn't have those 2 blokes in the side. Turbo's had scores of 79, 56 and 73. And it's off the back of a really strong floor with an average of 200 run meters, 6 kick refusals, 4 tackle breaks per game, plus all of that upside that we know Turbo has when his hammies are on fire, scoring 4 tries in 3 games. He's had 3 try assists along with that, 3 line break assists to go with those 3 try assists, and then 5 offloads as well, which is something I don't think we necessarily associate with Turbo as much. I guess maybe he doesn't get tackled as often, so there's not going to be the chance for an offload. But I really like to see that. That's improving. So the high floor, the high ceiling favourable matchup. I think he's the number one fullback option this week.
Yep, tough to argue with that. Another pretty comfortable play for me in the fullback spot will be Reece Walsh. There aren't many players in the competition where if you're not playing them, it's so difficult to watch them. Almost every single time he gets his hands on the footy, you just know it could be absolutely insane or result in a -3 through an error. So the easiest way is just to plug Reece Walsh into your team. Take the good with the bad. There will be plenty of bad, but we've seen enough already this season early on to show that he's a little bit better than he started last season. And we certainly remember how he finished last year. They've got the Titans. The Titans should leak plenty of points. But a really decent pod, I think, is in that same match. And I'm not sure I can get there in too many teams myself, but Keanu Kinney could be a real decent pod this weekend, particularly since the Broncos concede a league high. He might be 63 points to fullbacks through the first month of footy. But Kinney's had a bit of an inauspicious start to the year with no tries, just the one line break, one try assist. His average of 43 isn't awful. So if he can find a few attacking stats, he can easily be amongst, the highest scoring fullback any given week. He gets the matchup with the Broncos conceding plenty to fullbacks. I think your shout of Iongi a couple of weeks back resulted in 2 tries and a massive 70 or an 80-point score. So with the Titans being huge underdogs, they definitely step up against the Bronx. He's going to be criminally underplayed. Therefore, I think he becomes one of my favourite pods of the week. He'll definitely get a run out at some point. I've just got to work it out where. If things click, I think him and Jaden Campbell can go massive.
Yeah. I think there's so many options. We've got a plethora of fullbacks that we can consider that it is quite tough to get some of these pods that we are keen on, that we are quite high on, into your side because you are leaving out potentially your Dylan Edwards, your Tom Trbojevic, or your Reece Walsh. Another player that I'm pretty high on is Latrell Mitchell along with Sif Kanga. He's got the Walsh, Trell, Tom, Turbo combination. I'm pretty high on Trell. Not so much with the stats, and I know I'm the big stats guy. I really follow the stats, but for me, this is a little bit more of a vibe thing where he comes into the pod purely based off what we've seen so far from him. It's not so much what the opposition are giving up, what the opposition are allowing. But look, and if we do look at that in terms of the centres that have gone up against the Dogs so far, Moses Sully scored 34, Seb Chris 18, Bradman Best 44. Latrell is a much better beast than any of those blokes that we've just listed. Latrell's floor is 50 base and power, and then his ceiling, he's got an additional up to 25. I think he's averaging in attacking stats at the moment this season. The hard thing is he's that out-of-position player that we don't like. It's the fullback on GDS playing in the left centre role. So, look, based on the data, it actually could be a huge fade, but I really like what I'm seeing from Latrell Mitchell. And for that reason, I'm going to ignore the data, and he's going to be one of the key pods that I bring into the side. But in terms of another big fade for me, it's actually going to be the man Hammer. And it purely comes down to the data there. And I am going to back the data on this one, that he has had a decent start. However, the one area that his opposition's been really good at is restricting fullbacks. And look, Manly have struggled pretty much everywhere else, but they're the third hardest matchup for fullbacks across the competition. They're only allowing 40 GDS points. And you could say that, I guess that's a little bit misleading when you go a little bit deeper. We've got Ponga scoring 46, but only in 28 minutes because of the injury. But even if you take that out, your mate Weeks scoring 46 in round 1, and then Teddy last week really killing a lot of fantasy teams with a dismal 28 GDS points in a game that the Roosters really were in control majority of the time. There were just a couple of little bits of brilliance from Manly at times, but the majority of that game, the Roosters had it in hand, and Teddy really didn't do much. I think for me, Hammer's quite an easy fade in the full round. I'll make that really clear. He's a fade in the full round competition. He could be an option in the Stats Lab prime time. It probably just depends where you want to balance your players.
Yeah, so bizarre that we've talked strongly about so many Dolphins players, yet arguably, their best player, we're considering leaving him out of our week-long team just because the matchup doesn't suit. But obviously there are plenty of other players that are on the screen there that have probably better matchups and are in good, if not better, positions to outscore him anyway. Right, you did mention a couple of times there the Stats Lab primetime competition. here's our consensus squad for that competition. A massive shout out goes to the Stats Lab team for their ongoing support of the Fantasy Bros. Can you all make sure you please head over to the statslab.app and check out all of the awesome tools that they have available. We've got player stats from every game, matchup strength, player comparisons. We've got plenty of analysis tools to help you dominate GameDay Squad. And they certainly help us with our GameDay Squad journey and are a big reason why we have been on the podium and are featured in the top 20 leaderboards most weeks. We've also used a lot of their stats for our Wednesday night shows. So all of the information, all of the advice that we're passing on to you guys is a big thank you to the Stats Lab team. So on screen, you can see our Thursday and Friday primetime competition brought to you by the Stats Lab. We've gone with Isaiah Yeo, Stefano, and Cam Murray as our three middles. We're locking in Harry Grant as our hooker. Gone Dave Fafita and hoping Jacob Preston could score well, but maybe even be a little bit of a pod with people a bit off him. I don't mind that shout. Nathan Cleary and Isaiah Katoa are going to score a monster amount of points. We've gone Herbie, and just to be spicy, we've gone Cooler up against Jake Avarillo as the other centre. Jermaine Lasako, we're expecting a massive score. Tommy Jenkins and Tom Trebojevic. Look, just quietly, with so many good teams playing in the Stats Lab primetime competition, this would be a pretty good side for your week-long competition, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to track the scores of that starting 13 against the week-long competition and see how it goes. That'd be great to see. Look, that is our starting 13. Obviously, there's some bench players there as well that you would need to play and make some decisions there. Avarillo definitely would be one of those players that I think is going to come into that primetime competition, as is Fini Fuaki, who we've talked about before. So there's some really good opportunity for those players there. Just quickly as well, we're playing the game. Tell us someone you haven't thought of in a while from the NRL. Jado said, surely Steve Price. Look, I haven't thought about Steve Price this year, but I do think about him time to time because he did feature in the Warriors side. And I remember being at the game where he was playing against the Broncos at Suncorp Stadium, and he caught a bomb right in front of us and fell over for a try, and it was unreal, and his celebration was great. So I haven't thought about him this season. Have you thought about him at all?
No. No, I haven't.
Perfect. All right, let's chuck Jado into that wheel spin and we'll get to that really quickly. We need a motor through the rest of this because the AFL boys are not too far away for their show as well. Our consensus starting 13. We've talked about all of these blokes. That would be our starting 13. Jacob Preston again makes it just. I think there's potentially some question marks there. But as you said, potentially could be a really big pod based on some people fading him in their teams. I think if anything, I'd just change that to Fafita, and that would be me as well. But I think overall consensus wins out, and Jacob Preston probably just finds his way in there.
Interesting, no mention of the Nico Hines inclusion.
I'm just going to leave that to you to talk about because he's your man, isn't he?
Alrighty, let's get on to the BroDown ShowDown. And if you're a mathematician, you've probably been counting up on your fingers and your toes. Hey, Dill's points on the right-hand side are bigger than the points on the left-hand side. Unfortunately for Dill, that's not how BroDown ShowDown works. It's a head-to-head matchup per position. There are 3 positions per week. We had the fullbacks, the hookers, and the edge forwards. Despite me scoring fewer points total, I still managed to get the dub 2-1. My Teddy, a big 28, outscored Edwards with 22. Jacob Preston, 22, no good against Dill Lucas's 57, but it was my Blake Brayley just edging out Harry Grant for a 52 points to 46 point victory. And I think you have kicked up a stink about that, so you're making me spin the wheel now. Is that how it's working?
Correct. I didn't think my internet could handle the wheel anymore. It's struggling.
All right, let's get these names up. So well done to those people that voted for Stu last week. You should be able to see your names on the wheel there. Dill is the wheel on screen.
It sure is, mate.
We've got Gardy, Matty P, Tracy, Boney, JB, Kieran Taylor, Ahan, Roshni, and Coach Stephen, who's with us in the chat. We'll spin the wheel first and then see what they're going to win.
Yeah, I've got a 9-player rare pack ready to go as well. So we might, what do you reckon? We give away all 9 players to the winner today. And
I think Tracy Wall is definitely going to be able to make good use of those 9 players. Well done, Tracy. Thanks for the ongoing support.
Love it. And while I'm getting the pack up on screen, just a reminder, if you want to get involved to win some awesome prizes with the BroDown Showdown, all you need to do is comment when we put up our round 5 BroDown Showdown, who you think is going to win, whether it's going to be Stu or I. If you are correct, you do go onto that wheel and they have every potential to win one of these packs. All right, I've got a rare 9-player pack. Tracy Wall, we're going to give you every single one of these cards. So good luck. Hopefully we get some decent cards for you today. Here we go. All right, and just quickly while we're getting there, Sif Kanga, he's gone blind again, and he's just gone straight in with the Waz brother in myself. So hopefully I can get the dub for Sif Kanga this week. All righty, Tracy, here we go with a gold Smithies to start off. We've got a Joey Walsh gold. That is going to be a great dynasty card for the future. We've got Keong. We've got a Jamal Fogarty gold card as well. We've got a Sua Falongo Platinum.
Wow.
That is a great card there. Obviously not something for this week, but definitely something for next week and beyond. Toby Rudolph gold, Smith gold, Leka Halasima gold. Massive fade from me this week, not just because he burnt me and my prize card, but just in general, they got a pretty tough matchup there. And then Fitzgibbon to round that out. So Tracy Wall, congrats, some great cards there. Joey Walsh, Jamal Fogarty, Fagalongo, and Leka Halasima, just to put that out as well. Great work.
Well done, Tracy. Get in touch so you can get some of those cards into your side for this weekend. Sif Kanga, it's not too late, buddy, to change over if you wish. I'll just throw back onto this round's BroDown Showdown. We've got those players on screen now. You'll be able to see that I've gone for Jaden Campbell in the half position. Dill's got Nathan Cleary. I've gone Jermaine Asako as my winger against Tommy Jenkins, and then Reece Walsh goes up against Tom Trebojevic. If you think that I will get the chockies again with those 3 matchups, comment Stu. If you think Dill's going to get back into the winner's circle, comment his name. You can either do that live on stream now, or once this drops to YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, jump in the comment section and let us know so that you can get in the draw to win some of those awesome prizes that you just saw Tracy Wall take home. So Jaden Campbell, Asako, Walsh versus Cleary, Jenkins, and Tommy Trebojevic. We've got a vote for Stu straight away there with Boney. Skip's in there for Stu as well. Matty P for Stu. What do you reckon, Dill?
Where's all the love for Dill? Oh, here we go. Michael Cozzy. I can always trust Michael Cozzy to get the Dill, and hopefully I can get you the dub there as well. I think maybe a few people are a bit scared with the Melbourne Panthers matchup, and maybe they think Tommy Jenkins. I've cursed Tommy Jenkins, and playing him this week might mean that he doesn't score as well. But we'll see. It's some really good matchups, and look, we just saw last round. It went down to I think 6 points between each of our 2 key players there, and Teddy and Edwards, and then Blake Brayley and Harry Grant. So it's great to see that it's really close. Alrighty, the final giveaway for today is that Diamond Jack Williams, who is in some unreal form, and hopefully he can return after a little bit of a down game last week. We've got 4 people up on screen. Stephen, Walkies, Fantasy Stats, and Jado, they commented a player that we hadn't thought of this year, and they got one up over us. So, Stu, mate, without further ado, let's spin that wheel and see who's going to walk away with the Diamond Jackie Williams.
Just quietly, I'm going for Walkies. Sorry if there's a bit of bias there, but I love the waltzing Matt Hilda shout.
Yeah.
And it looks like it is that man. That was not rigged whatsoever, I promise.
Mate, everyone saw that live. That's on YouTube forever now.
It was live.
How good.
So well done.
Walking. Yeah. Make sure you hit me up on Discord, mate, and we'll sort that out for you.
All right.
Unreal work.
Replace this. Alrighty.
I think we might have to do that every week. What do you reckon, Stu? We might have to find something to give away each week and see if people can continue stumping us with players we haven't thought of.
Yeah, it was good fun. Let us know if you want us to run that again, and we'll see what we can come up with in terms of prizes. So rack those brains, start thinking along the lines of the waltzing Matt Hilda Avenue, because that was fantastic. Thanks for joining us once again, everyone. Oh, just quickly, we've got a late inclusion there.
Ooh.
Do we have time before the AFL boys kick up a stink?
Go on, do it. Good on you, Walkies. You're an absolute legend, mate. Go on.
What a man.
Let's spin that
what a
wheel
man.
again.
So Walkies has just mentioned he's already got him, and he's happy to share the love and spin the wheel again for someone else. Why is this not working?
It's because Skip's in here. Your internet started to play up.
Skip. No, we love you, mate. All right, this should work. Are we there?
Yep, here we go. All right, good luck to the 3 remaining.
Bang. All right. And we've got Jado.
Jado with the Steve Price shout. The great man is Steve Price. Well done. Well done indeed. All righty, Jado, hit me up on Discord and we will get that Diamond Jack Williams into your squad for sure. Congrats, Jado. Well done, mate. And everyone else in the comments and watching live or watching the replay, let's definitely get involved next week with that again. So start thinking about some players and see if you can get one up over Stu or I and potentially win some awesome cards.
That's it for tonight's show, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. Once again, plenty of fantastic prizes given out. Once again, Dyl, let's hope for a bit of a bounce back this week. Can't get much worse than last week, so I'm sure you and I are both due. Good luck for this round, everyone. We'll catch you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. As always, have a very happy Easter and good luck for this round and those still in the Classic Cup competition. Remember, please jump over to our YouTube page, Apple and Spotify. Throw us a like and give us a little bit of a comment or a rating as well. Let us know how we're doing. That'll be certainly appreciated. Any final words, Dyl?
No, mate, just a reminder that our AFL contingent in Has and Pity, they are reuniting. They're finally back together. So jump across. I think they're kicking off from 7:30 on this channel as well. Guest. So make sure you go give them a like. And they've been helping me immensely with my AFL side. I don't know why I'm even having a crack at it, but I've been killing it because of their picks. So make sure you go and give them a bit of love as well.
And we'll keep you posted about Sunday, Sif Kanga. Bit difficult to make things work given the Easter holiday there, but we'll update things on Discord. Probably looking like a no at this stage, but we'll throw out a couple of team suggestions, pods, and Sunday superstars to help those that might want it. Thanks, everyone. Good luck, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, man.
See ya.
Bye-bye.